Hey guys, welcome back to the American Mind Grind. I'm Jeff. This is Eric, and today we want to break down a little bit of talk some baseball.
Postseason baseball.
Postseason baseball. Of course, everybody has already heard the news about Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose, our guy. Love him or hate him, he played the game the way that it was made to be played, right?
Definitely. I mean, I know that he had the lifetime ban for gambling on baseball. My position's always been, I mean, I wish that they would just have inducted him into the Hall of Fame while he was alive, even if they had to put like a denote or any type of asterisk that was performance only, that would have been okay. But now it's going to have to be done after his death, and I'm sure that Major League Baseball will eventually do it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what goes on nowadays, right? Like, one of the things in my business that we always do is that something you do for one, you always have to do for the other, right?
Yep.
So keeping him out of the Hall of Fame, and of course you start talking about the things that happen in football and basketball, and it's disastrous with the way those people act. But what's happened in baseball recently, right? Like they caught the Houston Astros cheating.
Yep.
Right.
In 2017. Yeah,
they won a World Series.
They sure did as a result of that. Yep.
So why don't they take all that away and say every single person involved in that is now not allowed in the Hall of Fame?
Yep.
If you're going to keep Pete out, and where does it end?
Yeah. At what's the threshold? For personality flaws and stuff like that. I mean, throughout time, if you look at all the major leaguers that are inside the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of people with questionable characters. Like they say Ty Cobb actually murdered somebody. He was a murderer.
Right.
And he was one of the best players that ever lived. Pete Rose had 4,256 hits. And if you know anything about baseball whatsoever, if you have one season as a professional, have 200 hits in one season, that can make an entire career and a fortune of money for your entire life, generational amount of money. Pete Rose was able to do 200 hits per year for 22 and a half years.
Yeah, and he didn't cheat to get those hits, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, keep him out of the Hall of Fame for what? For gambling? Like, come on, man. And there's no proof that he ever gambled against his team.
No proof whatsoever.
And that he's not in the. They're not asking to put him in the Hall of Fame as a coach. This is when he was a manager, right?
Yep.
So when he was a player, his cheating or his habits or his addictions had nothing to do with him getting those hits.
Yep.
He earned those hits, and it's kind of the way our society goes right now. It's like, if I like him or I don't like him, that's what I'm going to base my judgment on.
Mm-hmm.
Like even singers and stuff, like with the stuff that's going on with all the perverts on this kind of stuff. It's like, well, I don't know. I think I like the guy's music, or I like this person does good at being an actor or whatever. It doesn't mean I want to be their best friend. It doesn't matter if I'm out supporting it or not supporting it or what have you. With Pete Rose, like him or not, and yeah, he had a lot of
no doubt. There was a lot of talk about him with funding drug situations, having people mule drugs for him. The gambling was a real thing. He wasn't a great guy. I mean, you're baseball players are ideally they'd be great role models for kids, but in this case, he was just a great baseball player that really didn't care about that role in his life.
Right. I mean, we like to say it's a gentleman's game, right?
Right.
But nowhere does it say to be into the Hall of Fame that you have to be a great person or a likable personality or a gentleman by any means. Yeah. It just says, hey man, if you're the best, then you deserve to be recognized as one of the best.
And just like I said, if we just did this solely on his performance and his abilities, he's probably, in fact, I would just say this: if Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame for performance, then there shouldn't be a Hall of Fame.
Right.
He had more hits than any human being ever pick up a stick. So that's the deal there.
Like Babe Ruth wasn't no daisy.
No. He was a drunkard. I mean, like Mickey Mantle. People love Mickey Mantle. Everyone knows he was an alcoholic, like a raging alcoholic. He died of liver issues. So. You're not obligated to be the greatest guy in the world. He should be in the Hall of Fame, and hopefully, at least his family will have the satisfaction of being inducted one day soon. Let's talk about what's happening currently in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so talking about performance and the money that Pete never really made because the money wasn't tossed around back then like it is nowadays. Go ahead about the playoff baseball or anybody who's keeping up with that. Pete died. He didn't want to see one more year of baseball without being in the Hall of Fame.
He's missing some pretty exciting baseball. So he died the day before the playoffs started. But the story of the playoffs, certainly, the number one story, is the Detroit Tigers. So the Detroit Tigers were 10 games out of 500, 8 games under 500 around the middle of August. They went on a 33-13 run to put themselves into the playoffs. And now they eliminated the Astros just yesterday. They actually swept the Astros in a best-of-3 wild card playoff series. They won the first 2 games. And the big story about that is, which is really cool, that their entire team salary for their wild card personnel, all 26 players, was $18.8 million. And to put that in perspective, the New York Mets this year, their team salary is north of $300 million. And then the story that came out was that the Tigers had an $18.8 million salary for all their wild card personnel, 26 players. And Josh Hader, who was just a reliever on the team that they just eliminated, the Houston Astros, his annual contract's $19 million, $200,000 more than the 26 guys that just beat his team in the playoffs. Pretty cool story.
Crazy.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy.
And it always brings me back to my take on paying these athletes these insane amount of signing contracts and all these years that they're committing to them. It's like, hey, how much better would the game be if they paid them at the end of the year based on their performance? You know, and with all of the technology we have nowadays, there would have to be somebody who should be able to make up some kind of simulator that says, okay, here's what this person should get.
Absolutely. A lot of people believe in performance-based contracts, you know, at the end of the year, maybe look at it. Here's what your average was. Here's how many wins you had. And this is what the tier of compensation that you should receive, you know?
Right. Like, look how good a sales team is, right? If I went and I hired a sales team for my company and I said, I'm just going to give you $1 million a year, how good are my sales going to be? You know, if it's guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Rather you make a sale or not.
Not speculative.
I'll give you $1 million. Or perhaps I say, hey, look, if you hit all your bonuses and you hit all these numbers, I'm going to pay you on a percent. So if you do 10 million in sales, you're taking home $1 million by yourself. Then I'm probably going to get a better performance out of that sales guy, right?
You absolutely will.
So I don't know why sports doesn't do the same thing. Look at what's happening with Dak Prescott. Scott, how's that working out?
$60 million annual. The Cowboys are struggling. They get smoked at home, you know, and all that. So for the Tigers, they're going to be moving on to the AL divisional series. They're going to play the Cleveland Guardians. Had a great season, and we'll see if this magic carpet ride will continue. You know, the Mets are going to be playing a winner-take-all game tonight, so they're 1-1 with the Milwaukee Brewers. And then the other 2 series was the San Diego Padres won their straight 2 games. They're in. They're going to be playing the divisional round against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then the last one is the Kansas City Royals, another team with a very low budget, with one superstar. They did load in on Bobby Witt Jr., who's a great baseball player, probably a top 5 guy in all of Major League Baseball. The Kansas City Royals never have invested money into talent infrastructure, but they knew that they had special generational talent with Bobby Witt, and they loaded in.
They had George Brett.
Yeah, that was in like 83, okay? So that was quite a while ago. So Kansas City gets the New York Yankees, my personal favorite team of all time in any sport. We're looking forward to that matchup. It should be a good matchup, a best-of-5 series in the divisional round. And the only thing we have to wait for tonight is if the Mets are going to move on or if the Brewers are going to be moving on. And they'll play the second-best team in the National League. Doesn't come to my mind. LA Dodgers are number 1 seed.
Well, the Padres, I think, have the...
Padres are playing the Dodgers.
This is where the Dodgers always choke, right? Or they either choke or don't choke. This is where they have a hard time getting over that hump. So we'll see.
Oh, Phillies. I'm sorry. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, the
Phillies. Phillies are the number 2 seed.
There's a Philly right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He sure
there's
was.
It's a tough playoff now. We're down to, you know, whoever has. It's almost like whoever makes the least amount of mistakes at this point, right?
Absolutely. Better
and
pitching.
We were talking earlier that middle relief pitching. Back in the day, even when these guys played, there wasn't much of a relief pitcher's role. You know, a middle relief. The relief pitcher would come in with a lead and close the door, but you know, they found out that, hey, once a guy starts getting around 80 pitches, the pitches start to get up, he starts to labor a little bit, and you got to get him out of there, or you're not going to have the lead to get to that relief pitcher. So middle relief pitching has really become a big part of baseball.
Yeah, typically as starters, you only go about 6. Yeah. And then you have to have a guy 7, 8, and then you got to have a closer in 9. So middle relievers are now really starting to demand big salaries because of the ability just to simply get 6 outs. If you can do that, you can make a living in Major League Baseball.
Nolan Ryan would have hit back in the day. He'd hit 100 pitches, and they'd walk out and say, "How you feeling?" "Fine, okay, go, keep going."
Oh, there were games that he went 150 pitches plus.
Insane.
Yeah, they used to be workhorses, starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. But of course, back then they didn't make any money. They really did. They made good salary. They certainly made a good living, and they were well off. But they weren't like generational wealth,
right?
It's like there is now. So
who's your take? The Yankees to win it all?
All right, predictions. Yankees will beat the Kansas City Royals. I did great season, amazing season. I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows? But I really like the Yankees there. In the Guardians against the Tigers, I'm rolling with the Tigers, man. I always believe, and I'm sure Jeff is the same way. We're baseball guys. When you're playing good baseball at the right time, you can be a really tough team to dispatch of. So I think they're playing really great baseball. They understand the team concept. They don't have any superstars at all. Listen, Jeff, they've got not one guy on their team with 25 home runs. They don't have one guy on their team with north of a 275 average, and they don't have one guy on their team with 75 RBIs.
Well, it's an incredible story. Instead of that, they're playing baseball the way this guy used to play.
That's right. That's right. Get him on, get him over, get him in, right,
and,
Jeff?
You're right. It's almost always the team that is hot going in runs away with it. Remember the year that the Florida Marlins were the wild card and won it all?
Yep.
And they were just hot going in, you know, and they didn't have the best team. They had some good pitching, but they didn't have the best team, you know. And I mean, the Padres are hot going in. I think that look out for the Padres. I think that's my take. If I'm rooting for a team for the story to win this thing, it's either the Tigers or the Padres.
Absolutely. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in that matchup solely because I think the do factor is involved. Because every year it's catastrophically bad with the Dodgers. They've had a great year. Ohtani has had a year for the ages, literally a year for the ages. And so I'll go with the Dodgers there. And then the last series is going to be the Phillies against the winner of the Mets and Brewers. And oh boy, if it's the Mets, I'm going to take the Mets, and if it's the Brewers, I'm going to take the Phillies. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Look out for the Phillies. Don't sleep on them. Ohtani, best player ever.
He could be. But a lot of people are saying that the reason why his numbers went up exponentially as far as offensive statistics and metrics is because he was not pitching. It'll be interesting to see if he pitches next year, because a lot of people don't realize it's not like pitching like at the club level or high school or even college. You know, if you put in, like, it's almost impossible to do them like 100%. And if he's pitching, then will his stolen bases go in half? If he's pitching, will his home runs and some of those baseball metrics start to decrease? So we'll have to see. The only time will tell on that. If he comes in and throws and gets 20 wins next year and he hits 50 home runs plus and has 100 RBIs and another 50 stolen bases, I don't think there's much doubt that he might be the very greatest baseball player ever to live. Ever.
If not that, you have to say most valuable.
Yeah, and then of course Aaron Judge. You know, even with all that said, Aaron Judge had a better year than Ohtani did.
Well, and then that's where the conversation is most valuable comes into play, right? Is like, okay, we're in a pinch, man. Our bullpen's all beat up. We need someone to take the mound. Is Aaron Judge going to come throw 3 innings of shutout baseball?
Yep.
No way.
Yep.
No way, which means he's not as valuable as Ohtani. But anyway, we'll see what Ohtani's numbers and the Dodgers do in the playoffs now that they're there and now that Pete Rose isn't there to bet on it. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Enjoy the competition.
See you next time.